All right, so the sun in the first house. Okay. So, we have the sun in the first house. So it's I wouldn't say any other placement's not positive, but it can be very positive because the sun doesn't mind being here. There are certain houses, planets love being in. There's certain placements they like being in. There's certain placements that it's a little bit uncomfortable, right? So the sun rules the fifth house, which is another fire house, Leo energy, right? But the first house is Mars, Aries energy. So the sun doesn't mind being here because it can do its thing here too. It can act, it can be seen. The first house deals with identity, self-actualization, who you are, your confidence. And so when your sun's in the first house, identity is king, queen. Identity is important to you, whoever you are, whatever you are. And identity can mean many different things. For some people, it could be your ethnicity, your race. For some people, it could be your talent. If you identify as a musician, if you identify as a mother, if you identify, like, some people are like into motherhood, like they're just like super mom type of, they have blogs and things like that. Their sun could be in the first house and they're known for that thing, right? You could be an athlete. Whatever it is will be showcased to the world. I always say it's a public house. I say all the firehouses are public because we can see that. Whatever is going on in that firehouse, we see it. It's passionate and it's out there and it's in your face. The first, fifth, and ninth houses. The ego in the first house can be magnified. So it really does depend also what sign your sun is in. As I always say, we have to put everything together, but this is just the, basics of the sun in the first house. Whatever you are will be magnified. So anytime a person's lost or they want attention, anytime you want attention, you feel like people aren't paying attention to you, look to where your sun is. Go there. You're not getting attention. Your son's in the fourth house. Go there. You're not getting attention. Your son's in the 12th house. Go do 12th house like things and, find people like that who are into the spiritual. If you're, son in the 12th house, son in the fifth house, go have fun. Go showcase your talent. Go tell everybody what your talent is. So in the seventh house, who do you relate to? Who are the people that you are around? Who are the people that can uplift you? There's so many different ways you could do that. But what I mean is whenever you need attention, go to your sun sign. Because the sun is what we exhibit. It's what we show. It's what people see on the outside. Now, the rising is our reputation, but the rising is more so what other people will perceive us as. But the sun is what you are conscious of exhibiting. That's the real shine. Now, that's not always what drives you. The moon, your moon sign is what drives you. But you can benefit when your sun's in the first house from what you exude, what you choose to show the world. The first house is also linked to body. And also we know that the first house is linked to, it's Mars ruled. But, Aries energy is you can make that connection to it being Aries energy. Not that the first house is Aries, but sometimes people use that interchangeably, but it's really just Mars rules it. The Aries rules the head, right? But we also know that the first house also is linked to body. So sometimes when you see a sun in the first house also can link to somebody who is seen. Any type of placement in the first house can link to that as well, but especially if it's like a Venus. You might look at someone's Venus or Neptune to see beauty or attraction or being handsome or people who are in modeling or people who people like because of what they look like, can be in the first house because the first house is what we see and it's identity. Now, it's not always who you are. So we do have to be careful with over identifying with that first house energy because you're probably going to get attention for that thing, whatever that thing is, right? And again, you would have to get a birth chart interpretation. I have a link below if you want a personal birth chart reading. That we go deeper because this is just the sun in the first house. I do give a few examples, but obviously we have to look at an individual chart to see how this looks for individuals. But yeah, it can get to that point because we can have someone with a sun in Libra. Now Libra is known for thought. Libra is air. So we have communication there. We have this ability to relate to other people. We have speaking and all of those different things that could be associated to air signs. However, this is a sun in Libra person. It's ruled by Venus. So Libra is really ruled by Venus. And let's say we have the sun there. Let's say we also have Venus there. Let's say we have Venus in the first house as well. So this person's going to get probably more attention for what they look like, right? People might relate to them as well, but it might be they're lured in by what these people look like. And that's how they, attract people. And people kind of might overly identify that person with what they look like. But this person really is a moon in Pisces. and they need a more sensitive approach. Moon is what we need. It's where we go to feel safe. So Moon and Pisces person needs more compassion. They need to connect to people. They need to actually feel connected to people. Not just not just be connected. Not like Aquarius, where we're trying to champion for everybody and change things, and we care about how the direction of things go, and we're forward thinking and forward feeling with our moons in Aquarius. It's more about, those type of, I have a duty to change things and fix things for people. This is Pisces. So we need to slow down, and we have to feel things, and we have to be compassionate, and we have to have real, true bonds based off our human compassion for each other, right? But your sun is in Libra. So that's what I mean by we have to look at your whole chart, because you're not going to feel fulfilled just by someone telling you that you look good if your sun is in the first house in Libra. You're not going to be fulfilled if your moon is in Pisces. Okay? If your moon is in Pisces, and maybe your Mars is in the fourth house, you're not going to be fulfilled with just people going to you because of what you look like. You're going to feel there's more to you. You get what I'm saying? So that's why we have to look at the whole chart in order to understand, but that's just one example. Good or bad. So remember, the sun is the ego. So if your ego is positively, impacted, then we're going to see that it's a positive perception people have of you. And typically the sun is going to be positive wherever it is because it's light. But if we have a chart where someone has some kind of other traits that can make them come off in a way that's not positive. If we have Sun square Saturn, somewhere, and if we have, some other, dominating traits, and your sun is in the first house, and maybe you identify as someone who's very confident and bold and, whatever that case, whatever your personality is, it can come off a certain way. So we do have to be careful with the sun in the first house with ego. Now, if you are in any type of position where you have to show confidence, it can work out well for you. But what I say, I'm just saying, more so than other signs, the sun has to be very careful of that ego in the first house. The sun doesn't have to worry about ego in the 12th house. The 12th house is spiritual. The first house is seen. The first house is confidence. The 12th house is hidden things, hidden self. To tap into the 12th house. So we don't have to worry about ego as much in the 12th house. We worry about it when we get to this first house, because now we're self-actualizing, and now we are about self. And the opposite of the first house is the 7th house of partnership. Partnership meaning romantic partnerships, business partnerships, relating to people is the 7th house. Now, if we have a lot of energy in our first house, and then we have other placements in our chart showing we're very opinionated, we're very dominating, we now have issues with the 7th house, because any house that has a lot of energy in it, we got to look to the opposite house. Are we balanced? And if you're not balanced with your sun in the first house, you're going to see problems with your relationships, because it's going to be more about you and what you want and what you want to do and what you feel, and what you want to show. Okay. You could have a person who's like, they like showing off their relationship, but they don't really listen to what their partner's needs are. Like, you could have a situation like that. And it's a contrast, it's a contrast to the 7th house. It's a contrast to the 12th house. I would also say the other house that rules Mars is 8th house. Pluto and Mars rule the 8th house, Scorpio energy. The 8th house sun wants to transform, though. They want to change. The first house sun is more aware of what they think they are, and like, this is me. So you're going to see more of a change, more of an intentional change in the 8th house person, who can go through many different changes over their life. And the first house person, the sun in the first house, can be more about, this is who I am, and this is what I need to be respected as, and this is what people should see me as type of energy. All right. And again, the sun in the first house, I think, again, people have to work. You got to use it to your advantage, right? Use it to your advantage, because wherever your sun is where you're going to be able to get the most attention for whatever you prioritize, whatever it is you think is important about you. Again, you could feel like you're important because you could be sun in the first house person, could be an athlete. Now that athlete's going to be known probably for mostly being an athlete, especially if that's what they choose to sell, if that's what you choose to identify as. If you are someone who identifies like you're a musician, you're going to be known as the musician. If you're known as the comedian, you're going to be known for the comedian. An example of that is the first house people. Know your chart, because again, like I said, the sun is sheds light, and the sun is great where it goes, but ego. The sun is simply the ego. And when we put it in the first house, we can get sometimes egotism for some people. Now, again, if you're sun in Pisces and you have a lot of Pisces energy and some other stuff, probably not. Probably not. You're probably not going to be that off-putting in that type of way. But an example I have is like maybe your sun in Leo. So, wow, sun in Leo in the first house. People notice you. You also have your Mercury in Leo. It's in the 5th house. Okay, you're an entertainer. You're probably an entertainer, or you're funny. And by entertainer, I don't mean you have to be a professional entertainer. You're funny. Like, people probably like being around you. You're probably fun to be around. And then if you're a Sag rising, like, this person's probably the life of the party. They're funny, right? So what's going to happen is, let's say that's you, right? And everyone's like, oh, this person's so funny, like, all this. But then you have, your moon in Cancer, where you really need to be nurtured and you really want to feel listened to. You want people to understand how you're feeling. The moon is our driver. It's what makes us feel safe. So you tell all those jokes and you're funny and you're vibrant, but people don't really know what you need until they get to know you. So be careful of over-identifying sun and first house people with what you are, because if there's a lot of planets in that first house, or you have other aspects of your chart where that's all people know about you, it can leave you sometimes feeling unfulfilled. But in general, sun in the first house can be a positive attribute. You just have to know your chart, and you just have to make sure that you're not overdoing it, right? You're over-identify with yourself. You don't learn a lot about yourself. You see what I'm saying? We all can have pride points of what we're proud of about ourselves, who we are. But at the end of the day, we also need to make sure that we are open to seeing ourselves as multi-layered. In order to really get our needs met, we have to address all the things in our life and all the things that influence how we respond to things and what we truly want in life. And that is why I say, like, getting a birth chart interpretation is going to be more useful, because then you're going to see how it plays out in your life, and you're going to see like what part of your chart do you need to work on the most. That is it for this video. Again, it was a general video, just to give people the basics. If you need your own personal birth chart interpreted, the link is below to my services. If you want to check out the testimonials, you can see what people that I've actually done these readings for are saying. Thank you for watching.